Hey guys, Mike Taylor, aka Battleship Cobra here. Today I wanted to go over my approach to support to orient new consultants who are getting into a support desk role. Before we begin, I want to say check out battleshipcobra.com for info about me. In particular, the Crystal Reports for SAP Business One course and SQL for SAP Business One course. They're online, self-paced. Check them out. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. If you don't come to YouTube all the time, you can get an email every time I make a video. And if you share any of my videos with other consultants, that really helps to spread the knowledge, and I really appreciate it. I've been doing support for a long time, and I wanted to outline my basic process and think it through a little bit and share what I have learned. Keep in mind that I'm not perfect, and I will make mistakes with these steps. But these are the steps I try to follow and do my best. Even when I'm busy, I try to make the steps systemized and repeatable. So the first thing that I like to talk about is the frame of how you approach the customer. The customer obviously will see things in a particular way, and if you understand frames of reference, it is how you approach in your mind what you are trying to get through to the customer, and then the customer will have their own frame of how they approach it. So in this example, a customer could come at you and say, this is your software, you need to fix it, and this is all your fault. Okay, that's one frame. It's not a very productive frame, and it's not something I like to hear. Blaming me for whatever's going on with the software doesn't help us solve it. So I like to say, well, okay, the words you're using make a difference in what I'm understanding. And what I like to say is, I'm a consultant. I have a lot of experience. I'm here to help you. I might not know everything, but things I don't know, I can look up, test, and help you with. I didn't make the software. You bought the software, and I'm here to support you. We do typically level 1 and level 2 support, and then if something is very corrupt, we send it to SAP with an SAP Global Support ticket. So we're here to support, we're here to do our best, but we don't owe the customer anything. We're going to do our best, but you can't take things personally. As much as I'm guilty of taking things personally, you're doing what you could do, you're going to go above and beyond, but at the end of the day, we're both working on a solution, and we both need to take responsibility for our systems, the maintenance of them, and the history, okay? So you can see my frame. And I try not to let people shove me out of that frame. It's like, this is your fault, right? So you can see where if you have a strong mental frame, and somebody just getting into support might not understand that, and they'll get buffered around like, oh, sure, okay. So I'm going to give you some tips, and I've kind of codified my approach, and hopefully those will kind of simplify things, and you'll see what I mean. So I've broken down my approach into 3 steps, and you can see assess, investigate, and complete. I spent quite a while kind of writing out my process, and I've broken it down to those 3 things. So the first step is to assess the issue. Here, I often see new consultants, they don't necessarily read the question, and they don't really read into the question too much. The first thing you want to do is really read the request. I know it's hard if you're busy, but if you read the request, you'll save yourself time. And if you really look at it, you can say, what are they really asking? Are they really saying something is broken, or is there something in the process that's not working? Where could the possible solution lie to the problem? You can really get a lot of information from what they're describing. And in the end, maybe you have a better solution. Maybe they're saying, I need to automate this. And then you can think in your head, well, you wouldn't need to automate that. I can kind of see where they're going or why they would want to do that. But maybe here's a better solution, right? So you really read it. And that comes with experience. But don't just take what they say as what you need to do. Don't just do what they're going to say. That's part of being a consultant. You can interpret what they're asking for and then give them something even better. Do you have enough information to act on this ticket? Do you have specific business partner numbers, specific documents? Do you have a set of steps or procedures to recreate this? If the customer is saying, this is broken, like I've got some just absolutely ridiculous requests, like, this report isn't working the way I thought it would work, or this isn't working how it used to work. I honestly can't even help you. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to look. So that leads into the next point. Train your customer. Ask them, say, could you please provide steps on how to recreate this error message? Could you provide the error message? Could you tell me on what machines it was happening? Did you try anything? Do you have any screenshots? I think it's pretty fair to say to the client, could you provide me an example? Because otherwise, if you say, this report's broken, all right, so now I'm going to spend 15 minutes of your 30 minutes free in the case of Progestic. I'm going to spend 15 minutes logging in, looking around aimlessly. What am I what am I looking for? Okay. But if they say, I have an error message on a sales order, it seems to be on one workstation, try document 107543. Okay, that's perfect. I can go, I test it on the server. I test on the server, I can eliminate it as a central issue, and then I kind of isolate it down to the document, see if the document, maybe it's a service type document or something, and then I can go from there. If I have to discuss it with the specific user at their workstation, you see how I can get down to the solution with that. And the last one, which I suck at, but I try, I don't lose emails. And I think people want to just hear back from me, but a lot of people email me directly. They don't go through the portal. So if they email you, I'm really trying to respond and say, I got this message. I am bad at this. I would say this is something I try to do and I fail most of the time. If you do have a portal system, like a support ticket logging system, you'll notice that most of them immediately respond and say, hey, we got your message and we are going to respond to it. So that's all it will take. If you could say, hey, I'm busy and it's going to take me a couple days, sometimes I just triage a question. It's like, can you add a query X, Y, and Z? It doesn't seem that like critical. I will have to prioritize it lower if I'm very busy, but I need to communicate that. So that's really good as part of the assessment. Is this something I need to look at immediately? Is this something that I can put off till tomorrow? Or could this be next week? Or maybe there's no time frame on it. Investigate. So the first thing you want to do is narrow down the root cause. Is this on all workstations? Is this on a single workstation? Is this on all users, a single user? I like to get kind of a scope of, what is the specific error message? Where is it? Usually I'll start by recreating the error message on the server. And if I can recreate the error message on the server, it's very simple because I can then troubleshoot it on the server. And it's clear to me it's a system-wide issue. If the issue is with only one user, then you can kind of narrow the whole scope of things down to that workstation. So a lot of the times it will be a missing component or it will just need a reinstall. You can check the DI API XML setup, but it gives you a way to investigate in order to recreate that error. And basically you can think if you can't recreate the error message, you cannot really solve the issue. You'll never really be sure. There's kind of a caveat with that with printing. Printers are very difficult to recreate the issue remotely and to fix remotely without being there. And if you can isolate it away from, say, a layout being broken, then you can kind of troubleshoot it that way. But in general, you want to recreate the issue in order to solve it. Using a test database is an amazing way to test because you could do destructive testing. You can copy and make a fresh test database, go in there, try to break it, try to delete things, try to update things, try to move things around, look around, try whatever they were trying to do in various ways. If you can just get it to go through in any way, you can usually do that. So I find people will just try to iterate on the live server or they're just frustrated, they don't know what to do. You know what, you can always start moving towards the solution by going into the test database and trying to understand all the systems surrounding it, what happened, and how you're going to get that error message. Again, recreating the error message will allow you to solve it. And then in certain cases with a proof of concept, The proof of concept, especially if it's more of a request rather than an error, you can do a quick way to prove that, hey, the minimum amount of work I'm going to do, I can update specific things. I can do a formatted search that will trigger properly. I can do a crystal report off of this or that document. So proof of concepts are a really great way to investigate whether or not something is achievable. And you can try a few different things. Even if it's a simple example of a setting that they could change, you could do that in a test database as well. So they can go and try the difference in the settings. And you can try like, allowing item release without stock, without a cost. We don't really think that's a great way to proceed. But maybe there's some settings of blocking negative inventory in different ways, or any of those central settings that you can maybe change or experiment with. Payment terms comes to mind, like people using installments was one from last week, or cash discounts. So you can demonstrate a new feature that maybe would help them. And again, with your assessment, maybe they're not asking you specifically for what they're asking. Maybe they don't know about another feature. So you can show them in a quick way, like, hey, I solved this, but if you check this box, it'll behave in a different way. And that's immensely useful. And again, as you get more experience, you'll be able to make real consulting recommendations, and that's very valuable to clients. The last step in the process is to complete the ticket. I'll break that down into two. We'll do how-tos and then error messages. So the first step in the completion of a how-to is provide a very clear step-by-step process. If possible, with screenshots and arrows. I use Snagit, and I try to make a very complete and dummy-proof email that, it takes a couple extra minutes, but I do all my screenshots. I validate all my working paths, so I don't just guess like, go to here, go to there, and be like, oh, it's something like that. Take the extra 5 seconds it takes and look. Is it administration, system, general settings, inventory tab? Make sure you get the exact wording so that if somebody has no clue about SAP Business One, they can still follow that menu path and they can see logically where you are going with your solution. If the customer can use it as a reference, that's even better. So they can continue to get, value from your email that you sent. If you cannot provide an exact step-by-step solution, remember to provide a workaround. And if you want to provide an alternative way to do what they're doing, you could also document that. Again, it doesn't take that long, but something that's extremely clear will really complete that ticket. I don't know how many times I've got back like just vague instructions like, do this, do that, do that. And it's like, man, you spend so much time running in circles, and I really try not to do that with customers. I really try to document what they should do very specifically with very clear wording, and I reread it and I make sure everything is very clear. So for completing error messages, you want to take all the steps from the how-tos, but you want to provide some extra detail. A big thing is why. Why did that error message happen? They want to know, clients want to know, why did it happen? So if you can give them a reason, sometimes you don't know. Maybe a user did something and you couldn't find it, or there's no change log on that particular form. The clearest why you can give is very valuable. When you're looking for the solution, make sure you think of upstream and downstream issues. Maybe this isn't the only scenario where this particular combination of things occurred. Say you have an item that was returned with zero stock, and now you're trying to deliver it and it says item can't be delivered because it has no cost. Well, gee, maybe you have other returns that also have been returned with no cost. So you can go and look at the return rows and see if you have other $0 returns, and you can try to prevent those errors from occurring again. So spend the extra time and think, hey, do you think this would happen again? If you're even decent with queries, you could do a quick query and figure out if this will happen again and solve that issue, again, providing immense value to the customer. And maybe you're already in the system. You could say, hey, I wrote you a little query, and this will identify other documents that have the same issue, and now you can go and solve them. So you can very easily point the customer towards Query Manager. Here's something I made. It took, 2 minutes. and it'll, again, provide a lot of value and prevent that issue from happening in the future. If it's something like settings, again, I am not afraid to make recommendations, even of add-ons and stuff. I recommend B1Up. If anybody's worked with me, I constantly am suggesting B1Up and B1Up Print and Delivery. But settings in particular, if you're going to make recommendations for settings to fix the error, do that clearly and with the same step-by-step procedure as the how-tos. So besides just completing the ticket, I wanted to have some general tips. I think it's our responsibility to be transparent with the issue. If there's something going on, even if it's a mistake or a mistake you made or a colleague made, I think that it is worth being honest and not saying, hey, I don't know why this error happened. If it was something you did, you're going to fix it and you're going to find a workaround, but you can own that issue. And again, with the why on a how-to or error message, take responsibility, own that issue, or just in general, if something's corrupted or something's happening and you're just not sure, be transparent about it. If you say, I don't know, it is not the worst thing in the world. You could say, I don't know, and I'm going to look into it, or I'm going to ask a colleague. I don't know how many people have said, like, it's very nice that I know where I stand with you and your solutions. If you never say, I don't know, why would they trust your other answers? Because, if you're going about it and you're saying, you start to just make up some answer and the customer sees through you, it's just not worth it. Say, I don't know, I'm going to look into it and get back to you. Then look into it and get back to them, especially when you're starting. Saying, I don't know is completely acceptable. Say, I've never worked with that module before, and I am going to look into it and get you the answer. And that's, part of being a consultant. You don't have to know every single thing instantly, but you will have the resources to get that information and to bring it to them and to really crush that ticket, to really solve it, to really complete it for them. Your responses should be clear, confident, and concise. The 3 C's. Nobody likes an ambiguously worded solution, like, oh, kind of do this, or this was kind of, like, kind of, sort, maybe, sort of, like, give as short as it needs to be, clear, confident, and concise answer. If you don't have a confident answer, then you say, I don't know. But if you're going to give a good answer, it should be clear and concise. So simple how-to steps that are very clear. And you want to make sure that all of your answers follow that 3C principle: clear, confident, and concise. The last thing about the tips I want to say is some support is billable. I know that I feel bad sometimes if I've spent a lot of time and I don't have a solution, but I'm working to find a solution and my time is valuable. I could just stop right there and not bill anymore, but in certain cases, that the solution has to happen. And, I could say, well, the non-billable portion of the ticket is over. I need a little bit more time. If you could communicate that, or you could say, well, I'm going to bill you fairly for what I needed to find out. I don't like to bill for something that I am just learning myself. If I'm taking something and I have no clue how to do it, and I'm billing 20 hours on that, where I'm clearly just learning how to do it, I think there's kind of a balance where I'm not expected to know everything, but in the same time, if something takes me, you can't take 20 hours to learn something that's kind of in the scope of what you should know. So as you're learning and as you're a new support consultant, you're probably going to have some stuff where you just eat some time, and it's part of the learning process. If I'm shadowing somebody and I'm teaching them stuff, I try to just go off and just be like, hey, here's all the stuff I know about this. Here's my typical approach. Here's how I would solve this. Here's some extra issues and things. And it's inefficient initially, but the more you understand and the more you're having conversations, the more you're gonna hit other issues, and they're gonna understand your approach, your frame of reference, how you will tackle a ticket, and it'll give them from my standpoint, helping a new consultant, it'll help them to get confident in answering the customer. They can hear me say the words, and I'd say, this is exactly what I would say. And I feel like that helps a lot. But again, for me, some support's billable. And if you don't want help, I don't want to say you're stuck. I really take it personally, which I'm not supposed to. I shouldn't take it personally. I try to take it very personally, but at the end of the day, I'm a professional. Professionals, I have business clients. It's cost of doing business. And I'm providing value. And if you can solve it yourself, and I'll help you to solve it yourself. Could take 5 hours, 10 hours. Maybe you'll never solve it. Maybe you won't be aware of upstream or downstream issues, and maybe it'll just be something that nags your business and costs you money for years. So I like to think I'm providing value. I do a good job. I do a great job in documenting my solutions, and in some cases, I'm going to have to charge you. The final thing I wanted to get to was resources. So again, it's not necessary that you know every single little thing. Obviously, the more you know, the more a bulk of information and a reservoir of ideas you'll have in your head. But when you're starting, sometimes you just need some tips. So the first one I would say is test in the test system. Just go in your own test system and really try to understand how the module works. It's worth investing the time to try, say, the production module, put some things together, then you'll really understand what's happening. Why is this working this way? How can I impact it? Where are the settings? What can I change? What if I set something one way, how will it work, right? That's the ultimate way to really understand. So sometimes I just take it away. I'm like, I should really know this, but I'll spend 20 minutes in my test database. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I get this. And now I can explain why and why the specific steps I'm going to give work in the way that they do. Could B1UP help you? Sometimes you can just make the suggestion. I mean, B1UP is so useful. If something is really something that's annoying and they're just like, oh, I wish it worked this way or that way. I'm not afraid to say, hey, you could have a button here, or you could have a macro that automates this process, or you could send emails better using print and delivery. I'm not afraid to say that. It's the truth. It'll save them money. They think, okay, well, this is an investment. It's an investment, true, but there will be a great return on investment. And the more you work with it, the more you're going to get value out of your B1UP system. The F1 context menu, you could just push F1 and search for the context. If your SAP is set up properly, you'll get an article with all the details on the form that you're on, what the different fields mean, where the settings are, and you can have links to other parts of that. There's an online SAP Business One kind of context help search thing, and I'll link that in the video description below. That's amazing. You can search for the form you're looking for, and it'll go through every single option, every single drop down, every single checkbox, and it'll give you a little bit of context on every single one. So that's really amazing. I'll link that below. You should just be able to push F1. Sometimes server won't connect, or things just, I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't work, but the document, the online document below is the best way to get to that context menu. There's the SAP Learning Hub, which I'll link below too. So there's tutorials and a lot of extra e-learning stuff on there. The SAP Business One to-go user manual, sometimes there's stuff in there as well. You can look through that. It's easy. You can send the link to the customer, and I'll link that below. Check it out. It gives you some context behind the modules and some information on the process and some good context behind what the module does and how it works and why it works the way it's supposed to work. The final thing, which I do all the time, is just Google the exact error. Google the exact situation you're looking for. The Google forums, the SAP forums are full of knowledge. There's the SAP archive forums and the new forums. You could technically post a question on there too, but the forums will usually have some sort of indication or some things that you can try. Hugely beneficial. I've spent so much time on there. I've gotten so much information out of there. And as a new consultant, that's probably where you should start. Just search for that error message. It'll give you some context. You have to read between the lines, but you can always get a ton out of doing your research on Google. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been useful. Remember to assess, investigate, and complete the ticket. I will put all my steps with more detail below. This is to help new support consultants get oriented in the approach that I take to doing support. I've had a lot of good feedback, and to be fair, I've had some bad feedback too. Again, sometimes I'm busy and I don't respond. I apologize. Sometimes I'm too busy to just continually respond to people. I'm gonna get to your request, and I'm gonna get better, and that's my approach. So take my advice. Watch the video carefully. In case you work with Forgestic, I hope to see you soon. Don't hesitate to call me. I'll do my best to help you. I feel like as a senior consultant, investing in junior consultants will really pay off. If they've done their work, they've taken the time to investigate a little bit, they've done some steps on what they need to do. They don't just throw it to you. If they've done some work, I am willing to take a lot of time to go through this. So make sure you approach a senior consultant saying, I tried this, I looked here, and I made some effort. Could you help me by looking at it with me? And that will be a giant step to building trust and confidence. And if I see that happening, I'm more than willing to spend any amount of time. So if you take that approach, I feel like you'll always get a positive response from a senior consultant. Going through support is a great way to get kicked off into the world of project consulting. Really will challenge you, and it'll give you a lot of time in the trenches to look at different issues and to learn kind of what happens downstream from certain settings and some of the small issues you'd want to avoid in a project. It's pretty invaluable to get that experience of working with customers. You maybe will get mini projects to write queries, and it will set you up to be a better project consultant. So don't try to skip through it, and don't think that you're below doing support. It is the most important thing. I like to think of customers as farmers' fields. So you get a new customer, it's a new field. You can plant your seeds and you can harvest one time and you can walk away, but you're not going to continue to get a crop from that customer. You need to nurture that customer, you need to take care of it, and you need to water it. That's support's role. You need to continue to water and weed that customer so it will continue to produce crops. And that's the way I like to think about it. Thank you guys again. Check out battleshipcobra.com. Like, subscribe, share if you can, turn the notification bell on. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.